Welcome to this timely breakdown of the escalating conflict between Iran, the United States, and Israel. As of February 28, 2026, the Middle East is on the brink of a major war. We'll explore what led to this point, the sequence of events, who has suffered the most, and what could happen next. Let's dive in. The roots of this crisis trace back to long-standing tensions over Iran's nuclear program, ballistic missiles, and regional influence. In June 2025, the U.S. and Israel waged a 12-day air war against Iran, destroying key nuclear facilities after Iran violated non-proliferation obligations by enriching uranium beyond agreed limits. This conflict ended in a fragile ceasefire, but underlying issues remained unresolved. Fast forward to early 2026. Nationwide protests erupted in Iran over economic collapse, corruption, and a brutal government crackdown, spreading to 22 provinces and resulting in riots and deaths. Iran's currency, the rial, plummeted, fueling unrest. Meanwhile, indirect nuclear talks resumed in Geneva, mediated by Oman, but stalled. The U.S., under President Trump, demanded zero uranium enrichment, full IAEA verification, and curbs on ballistic missiles, demands Iran rejected outright. Trump issued ultimatums, warning of really bad things if unmet, including limited strikes. By mid-January, the U.S. began its largest military buildup in the region since the 2003 Iraq War, deploying two aircraft carrier strike groups, the USS Abraham Lincoln and USS Gerald R. Ford, over 100 aircraft including F-22 stealth fighters to Israel, warships, and troops for air defense. Israel raised alerts, and warnings from U.S. advisors like Lindsey Graham pushed for preemptive action. Iran vowed no concessions, bolstered defenses, and prepared proxies for retaliation, setting the stage for confrontation. Here's a step-by-step timeline of the escalation in February 2026, focusing on the last few weeks leading to today's strikes. January 10 to 18. Protests intensify in Iran. U.S. mulls aerial strikes while Israel goes on high alert. Oman mediates talks, but communications blackouts and flight cancellations signal rising tensions. Trump lends support to Israeli warnings, and Iran's supreme leader, Khamenei, remains defiant. January 25th to 27th. U.S. deploys additional forces, including THAAD missile defenses to regional bases. Iranian officials warn U.S. troops to say goodbye to their families. Israel convenes its security cabinet to discuss potential strikes. February 22nd to 24th. Talks in Geneva show brief progress. Iran reportedly agrees to zero uranium stockpiling, but collapse over core demands. U.S. issues a 10 to 15-day ultimatum for IRGC disarmament. Satellite imagery shows massive U.S. air power concentration. CIA and Mossad urge Iranians to rise against the regime. February 25th to 27th. Region on knife edge as U.S. finalizes buildup. Iran plans counterproposals to delay, but Trump threatens force. Israel warns Lebanon against Hezbollah involvement. Analysts predict high risk of conflict if diplomacy fails. February 28th, today. At dawn, U.S. and Israel launch coordinated strikes across Iran, codenamed Operation Epic Fury by the U.S. and Roaring Lion by Israel. Targets include leadership compounds of Supreme Leader Khamenei and President Pezeshkian, intelligence HQs, military-industrial sites in Tehran, Qom, Isfahan, Karaj, and Kermanshah. Trump announces major combat operations in a video message, urging Iranians to overthrow their government. Iran retaliates with missiles and drones at Israel and U.S. bases in UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, and Jordan. Explosions rock Tehran. U.S. plans multi-day attacks. As this is an ongoing conflict, casualty figures are preliminary and unverified. Iran appears to have borne the brunt so far. Iranian side. Strikes targeted top leaders. Khamenei's and Pezeshkian's status is unclear, but missiles hit their residences and offices. Military and nuclear sites damaged. Reports of strikes on a girls' school in Minab, potentially causing civilian deaths. Iran's economy and regime stability are further weakened amid protests. U.S. and allies. Iranian retaliation hit U.S. bases, for example, Al Udeid in Qatar and the Fifth Fleet in Bahrain, causing explosions and flight suspensions in Dubai. One civilian killed by debris in Abu Dhabi, minor injuries reported in Israel. No major U.S. or Israeli military losses confirmed yet. Broader impact. Gulf states on edge. Oil markets volatile due to fears of Strait of Hormuz closure. As of 3:10 p.m. WAT on February 28, 2026, the situation is fluid. Latest reports indicate ongoing strikes and retaliation, with explosions continuing in Tehran and Gulf states. Potential outcomes include wider war. Experts warn of a full-scale regional conflict, with Iran possibly closing the Strait of Hormuz, disrupting 20% of global oil supply and spiking prices. Proxy groups like Hezbollah or Houthis could activate, escalating to involve Lebanon, Yemen, or Syria. Regime change. Trump explicitly calls for Iranians to seize power, potentially fueling internal uprisings amid economic chaos. However, this risks prolonged instability or civil war. Nuclear risks. Strikes aim to halt Iran's program, but escalation could provoke nuclear proliferation or even use, condemned by groups like ICAN. Diplomacy is slim, but Arab states urge de-escalation to avoid oil chaos. Global energy markets could face a new order with long-term disruptions. This conflict could reshape the Middle East and beyond. Stay safe and informed as events unfold. If you want the very latest updates on this rapidly developing situation, make sure to subscribe right now and hit the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss a critical update as the story continues to unfold. Thank you for listening. We'll be back with fresh reports as soon as new information breaks.